Right, so encryption, right. Like when you send a text you maybe shouldn't have and hope it doesn't go to like the wrong person. We're talking about that, but way bigger, and we're breaking down an interview with Theo Tensor.
He's a journalist and a cryptography expert.
Exactly. And he really gets into how we keep things safe online.
And he jumps right in with a crazy story, the Taurus leak. German officers talking about sending Taurus missiles to Ukraine.
No way, they weren't speaking in code or anything.
Nope. They were talking about this huge military thing on a totally open line. Anyone could listen in.
Seriously, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it shows how important encryption is, especially for something this big with, global consequences. But even if they did use, like, basic encryption, there's a new problem, quantum computing.
Quantum computing. Okay, so this is where it gets really wild. Theo says it's as big as inventing the printing press. That's a huge statement. Why are they such a big deal for encryption?
Imagine trying to pick a lock with, like, a paperclip, right?
Yeah.
Then imagine a machine that tries every combination at once, instantly. That's basically the difference between our computers now and quantum computers when it comes to breaking codes.
Okay, so they're fast, but how do they actually threaten encryption?
A lot of our encryption, like RSA, which is used everywhere, is built on math problems that would take normal computers forever to solve. Years, centuries, maybe even longer.
They're like our digital fortresses with walls too high to climb.
Exactly. But quantum computers, they're like a cheat code. They just teleport straight over those walls. And this isn't some far-off thing. The U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, they're already ditching RSA because of this threat.
Whoa, okay, that's a little alarming. Our digital fortresses aren't so strong anymore. But Theo talked about new solutions too, like the McEliece algorithm.
Right. It's like building a whole new kind of fortress, one with walls made of something those quantum computers can't teleport through.
Hmm.
German mail providers are already using McEliece, so this is real.
So there's this race going on now. Old encryption is dying, and new stuff is being invented super fast.
Exactly. And it's not just about new algorithms. Remember those spy movies where they'd hide messages in plain sight?
You mean steganography, hiding info inside other data, like the secret message is part of a photo or something.
Exactly. It's like something out of the Cold War, but it's back. Even if someone cracks your encryption, they got to find the message, which could be hidden in a picture, a song, even a website's code.
It's like we're camouflaging our digital fortress, make it impossible to even see, let alone break into. It sounds like we need every trick in the book to stay safe online these days.
We do. One of the most promising things is something Theo calls multi-encryption or super encipherment. Like they say, two heads are better than one. But here, it's more like two locks are better than one.
Okay, now I'm really interested. Two locks, how does that work?
So instead of encrypting something once, you do it multiple times with different methods each time. It's like putting your valuables in a safe, then putting that safe in a bigger safe, and then hiding that whole thing. Each layer makes it exponentially harder to crack. There's even a system called Spot On that's been doing this for a while.
Spot on. They've been quietly building their own super safe for over 10 years. But here's the thought. If how it works is a secret, how do we know it's really secure?
That's where open source comes in. Theo's a big believer in this. Think of it like, would you rather eat at a restaurant where you can't see the kitchen or one where you can?
I'd rather see my food being made for sure. Transparency builds trust, you know?
Exactly. Open source tools are like that. Anyone can look at the code, so experts can check for problems or backdoors. No more black boxes. Everyone's involved in making it safe. He even mentions Smoke Crypto, which uses the McEliece algorithm as a great example.
So it's like having a whole security team checking our digital fortress 24/7, making sure everything's good.
Exactly. It's not just stronger encryption, it's more trustworthy encryption. But there's even wilder stuff out there. Theo talks about things like beyond cryptographic routing and derivative cryptography. It's still early days, but this is the future of online security.
Beyond cryptographic routing, that sounds like something out of Star Trek. But before we go full sci-fi, we've already talked about so much. From missile plans to secret codes, it's a lot.
It is, and we've barely scratched the surface. The big thing to remember is that encryption is way more complex than people think, and it's changing all the time. As we go deeper into what Theo's saying, we'll see how this all connects to a much bigger question. How much privacy are we willing to give up for security? It's a question that goes way beyond the tech stuff, It's about what it means to live in a world where everyone's connected.
Right, because it's not just about keeping our info safe from hackers, it's about who has the keys to the castle.
Exactly. And that's where it gets interesting with what Theo said about end-to-end encryption, like in messaging apps. On the surface, it's perfect. Only you and the person you're talking to can read your messages.
But it's not that simple, is it?
Not really. Theo calls these tech companies gatekeepers. They control the platforms we use.
Makes sense.
On one hand, they're giving us this great service, but they also have a ton of power, even if they say they don't look at our messages.
Like they've got a master key to everyone's private conversations.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes you wonder about backdoors. Could someone get in, on purpose or by accident?
So that little lock icon on our chats doesn't tell the whole story.
Right. We have to think about who's behind the lock and what they want. It's another reason open source is so important, being able to see how things work.
If you can't see the code, you can't know what's really happening.
Exactly. It's about giving users control. We need to make smart choices about the tools we use and how much risk we're okay with.
Speaking of choices, Theo mentioned interoperability. These companies are working together on that, right? What is that exactly?
It means you can send a message from one app to another no matter what app you're both using.
That sounds super convenient. No more switching between apps. But is it safe?
That's the tricky part. Interoperability sounds good, but it could cause new problems.
How so?
Imagine a house, right? If every door and window has a different lock, it's really secure, but hard to keep track of. But if you make one key that opens everything, is it really safe then?
I see what you mean. It's like fitting different puzzle pieces together when they don't actually go together.
Right. And with encryption, that can make things break easier.
So it's a trade-off, convenience versus security. And finding that balance with interoperability is going to be tough.
Yeah, for sure. But it's something we have to talk about. Governments, tech companies, everyone.
It's our data, our privacy. We have to have a say in this. And it's not just about today either. Theo talked about some really futuristic stuff, like beyond cryptographic routing.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It's like encryption is built into the internet itself, right?
Exactly. Data would be secure from the ground up, like teleporting a message instead of sending it through the mail.
That's some next level stuff. And then there was derivative cryptography.
Oh, yeah, that one's a brain twister. It's about getting rid of keys altogether.
No more keys. How's that possible?
It's really complicated math. But basically, both people can create the same key without ever actually sharing it.
That does sound like science fiction.
It does. But this is the future of encryption. And it's changing so fast.
We definitely need to keep learning about this stuff. But with all this talk about algorithms and technology, it's easy to forget what it means for us as people.
You're right. And that's why Theo's work is so important. He reminds us that it's about freedom and privacy. How much are we willing to give up for security? There's no easy answer, but it's a question we all have to think about.
It's easy to get lost in the weeds with all this tech talk, but it's really about something much bigger, isn't it? Like being able to say what you want, share ideas, without worrying who's listening.
Exactly. Theo's point is that encryption isn't just some techie thing. It's a basic human right. Privacy, free speech, sharing information openly. Encryption makes all that possible online.
And that feels more and more important these days, right? With all the talk about government spying, wanting to break encryption, this whole debate about security versus privacy.
It's a tough balance. That's why these conversations are so important. We can't just assume the tech will take care of itself. We have to understand encryption, fight for it.
We can't just leave it to the experts then, can we? It's our data, our lives.
Exactly. And what I like about Theo's work is he makes these really complicated ideas easy to understand. He doesn't dumb it down, but he explains why it matters to everyone, even if you're not a tech person.
He's like a translator, you know?
Yeah,
Helping the rest of us understand what the code breakers are doing.
that's a great way to put it. He wants us to think critically, question things, not just about the technology, but about the companies and governments who want to control it.
It's about being a citizen of the internet, not just a user. We have a voice in this, right?
Absolutely. And that's a powerful message. We need to take control of our digital lives.
So as we wrap this up, what's the one big thing you hope people take away from all this?
That encryption isn't about protecting data. It's about protecting people. It's how we protect our rights and freedoms in a digital world. And that's something worth fighting for.
Couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to Theo Tensor for his amazing work and for helping us understand all this. And to everyone listening, thank you. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your privacy online.